this.
Definitely.
But now it's become the mainstream thing.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be so niche. You had to hang out at comic book stores.
Yeah.
To find other people who read, like the latest season of Flash. The latest issue of Flash.
The latest,
latest issue of Flash.
That's true. That's true.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. It's stuff like anime, manga, reading books like American Gods and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's great that it's so much more commonplace now, and it's kind of like a topic of conversation in almost any group that you go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically with the Marvel Cinematic Universe being as popular as it is,
Indeed.
it is the new action blockbuster, shall we say.
Yep.
Yeah. This month, we'll be talking about a bunch of topics, including a lot of adaptations.
Yes.
We'll have 2 anthology series, not 1, but 2.
2, yeah.
Black Mirror plus 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. The age of the anthology is back. We'll be talking about adaptations for shows like Runaways, The Gifted, which is an X-Men series, including other more miscellaneous genre films such as Downsizing. We'll be talking about The Nancy Boys, which is an adaptation of a
book.
Neil Gaiman novel.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a radio play.
It's a radio
See?
play. Yeah.
We diverse. We
Diverse.
diverse.
And it's spin-off from American Gods.
Spin-off from American Gods. I'll be talking about an Indonesian horror film called Pengabdi Setan, aka Satan's Slaves. Which neither of you have seen, but it's actually really good.
I know, okay.
Yeah. But first of all, let's kick off with, I guess, the major topic of the month,
Yep.
which is Black Mirror. For those of you who don't know, Black Mirror is a British sci-fi anthology series created by Charlie Brooker and Animal Jones. It kind of examines modern society with particular regard to the unanticipated consequences of technology. Episodes are usually standalone and take place in either a present or alternative future. But as we kind of discover in this season of Black Mirror, they might be connected. This premiered slightly before the New Year's.
Yeah.
Most of us didn't have a chance to watch it until early in January, which is why we're covering in February right now.
Yep.
If you have social lives, you're out during Christmas, you're out during New Year's. Except we actually spent our New Year's watching Black Mirror.
We did, yeah.
Damn, we're sad.
That's fine.
Yeah, well, I guess that's why we're doing shows like this.
Yep.
Yeah. Season 4 is particularly divisive. Some aspects of it I feel are better than previous seasons, and some aspects of it are worse.
Okay.
Let's kick it off with Isa Feng. Like, what are your initial impressions of Black Mirror season 4, and what makes you think that it's better or worse than previous seasons?
Okay, before I get into my personal impressions of it, I think it's very interesting that a lot of other people that I've talked to about season 4 have felt that they're kind of losing their edge, right? Or at least the stories that they're putting out right now aren't as shocking as, say, first season. Well, obviously first season, and as well as second season.
Do you think it is just because of viewers' familiarity with Charlie Brooker's point of view?
It could be. I personally think it very much has to do with the fact that the shock and awe tactic that worked so well in the beginning, and because nobody kind of anticipated what it was going to be about, or to the extent at which they were going to explore these themes, have kind of normalized.
Sure.
And I think like kudos to Charlie Brooker and the way that he's decided to expand on these themes in a way that gives us a much deeper look.
From different angles?
As opposed to simply relying on the fact that it is a shocking thing. Or, because now that the audience expects that, instead of like going like the shonen manga power up arc where you constantly have to one up what you've done before, he's decided to kind of like do a horizontal expansion and give us a deeper look into this kind of world that he's creating, and we'll get more into that in a bit.
What about you, Hadi?
Well, to continue with your point, Isa, I felt that this was a good way of actually creating a universe, right? I mean, from
A shared universe.
Do
you think that is a plus point or a negative?
For me, it was a plus point.
Okay.
I mean, just because I like order. You know what I mean?
Alright.
Like, it makes it easier to compartmentalize everything that we've seen. And also to come up with like fan theories and all these kinds of ideas of linking headcanon lah, basically.
Don't be such a Marvel fanboy. Not everything needs to be in a cinematic
I
universe.
know.
I'm kidding. I actually like museums.
You know what I mean, right?
I like the museums,
right?
Yeah.
But like episodes, I felt some of the episodes were kind of pushing the boundaries a bit. I mean, episodes like USS Callister and all that, I felt was reinvigorated the series instead of I didn't see this season 4 as some people said that it was actually less of an achievement than previous seasons.
They feel that I personally feel that they feel that it's less of an achievement because they're no longer shocked by it. And Black Mirror, as Isa eloquently puts it, relied a lot on shock and awe initially, at least to earn its reputation.
Yep.
But if you continually do that, as we kind of see on the news right now, with to link it to real world events, like you see terrorist attacks and mass shootings all the time. It stops being shocking if it happens all the time. What Black Mirror Season 4 chose to do instead was to diversify its structure, its narrative inclinations, and two of the standout episodes actually tell me that Black Mirror might work best in 2018 with more optimism than cynicism. Because Hang the DJ and USS Callister, as we previously mentioned, ended on
better note.
Particularly happy endings. Hang the DJ in particular was unabashedly happy.
I kind of wonder whether that was an intentional choice given how well received San Junipero was last season.
San Junipero let Charlie Brooker know that people are receptive to episodes like this.
So I think it's still a bold choice, right? After all, since the tried and true method has always been shock and awe, people's jaws on the floor and things like that.
An episode like Metal Hit is actually very out of the box for Black Mirror. To very diversive reactions. What do you think of Metal Hit?
Oh, I wasn't a fan. I like the art direction.
Its cinematography was gorgeous.
But I think the minimal storyline that was told, right, was just a woman trying to escape.
It was a chamber horror story, which is newer.
Which I felt was again something different from what we have seen in previous seasons. But apart from that, I felt it lacked something.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that something is.
I think what it lacks is the thematic heft that other episodes have. The philosophical or moral lessons.
Perhaps,
Or it does deal with the unintended consequence of technology. But it deals with it in a more personal way. That doesn't say more about society.
Well, for me, I think Mental Hits, other than the fact that it was gorgeously shot and kind of had almost this Mad Max kind of desolate vibe going on. For me, I think what I found interesting in retrospect is the fact that it came before Black Museum. Right? And after watching Black Museum, and putting Black Museum as the last episode was a stroke of genius, in my opinion. Just tying everything together.
It should have been a series finale, in my opinion. They should have held it off until the end. But
I think in that respect, Metal Heads is a setup. Because if we start to consider how everything gets tied together by the time we watch Black Museum, then it seems like Metalheads would take place after Black Museum, right? Much further down in the continuity. I don't know if Charlie Brooker is going to go with kind of an overarching storyline and try to tie all these things together.
I don't think so.
I doubt he will because that's not his thing, right? But it's interesting to think about where Metalheads sits there and it being devoid of so much of the human element, really. The consequences of the technology that we've created, and ultimately, they're being hunted by it. But there's barely any life. There's barely anything there. And that is very interesting because, for 4 seasons, all we've been looking about is consequence to humans. And this is the one time that we're looking at its consequence on a global scale.
Not just to humanity, but to ecology, to the environment, to everything.
So I thought it was interesting to bring an idea like that, right? Something that brings this whole concept of the unintended consequences of technology to its furthest possible conclusion, and to bring it so early into what I feel is probably going to be a very long and continuous franchise. Right? And to punctuate that by also telling people what you just watched isn't just a far future thing where you're looking at, but it takes place in a universe, and it is something that, I don't know, maybe it's an indication of how Black Mirror might go, right? And maybe we'll see a lot less of the kind of themes that we've seen so far, in the future. So that for me was why it stood out, but only in retrospect after watching the entire season.
Yes, it's a more holistic kind of view of Black Mirror. Some of the pluses of Black Mirror I felt this season were its emphasis on female protagonists. All 6 episodes featured a female protagonist. That was a big plus for representation, and not all of them are white. So that's great too.
Diversity.
One of the downsides I feel of season 4 Black Mirror is its repetition or recycling of themes, specifically with the attribution of personhood to or sentience
Yeah.
to an artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
which is honestly nothing new to Black Mirror and nothing new to sci-fi.
Yeah.
Interesting and explorations from different angles, but I feel like he has kind of reached his apex of what he wanted to say with that already, and now we're kind of just running on our heels. It's become depression porn when it comes to the sentience thing.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that like the recurring or the revisiting of those themes again and again have to do with the fact that right now, at least the direction that he's going, is to kind of establish that the technology that's being used in most of the Black Mirror episodes are the same technology across the board?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So because of that, you kind of like write yourself into a corner, and you have to like kind of revisit that from different views.
Exactly.
You know, instead of like every episode has a new and different technology that doesn't.
I mean, I still think he can do that because there are episodes which are way out of whack.
Yeah.
I mean, in the previous seasons, you have things like the
Waldo moment, which is very the pig fucking episode.
The pig fucking episode.
I forgot the actual title. I think
National
that's
Anthem.
episode 1.
National Anthem. Yeah. I mean, pig fucking episode is a great title too.
Yeah.
Very direct and to the point. It gives away the first act twist though. So yeah. I agree with all of those points. And most of all, what I enjoyed most about Black Mirror happened in the first episode. It's a very astute and very timely takedown of toxic male masculinity in fandom. As much as we like to be proud of nerddom taking over popular culture, right? There is a subsection of us that is very hateful. If you've ever been on a message board or YouTube comments, people have this barrier of technology, and they feel that they can do anything to the person on the other side of the computer screen. And that's what USS character is essentially about. I mean, we're both huge Star Trek nerds, and Star Wars nerds. I mean, all three of us are. But some of the reaction to The Last Jedi, for example, with the representation in The Last Jedi, with LGBT people, with persons of color, with women, is quite bad.
It is.
Yeah. And not so much with Star Trek, I feel, because the whole idea of Star Trek is...
It's about diversity.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that at the end of the episode, But in conclusion, Black Mirror Season 4, I think it's still a very strong season.
It is.
Maybe not the best.
No. I mean, it's been forced to do something different, and it's forced to play a different role.
Actually, I can't even put my finger on which is my best season. Out of 4.
Yeah. It is difficult, but Season 4 makes me very excited to see what they're going to do next.
We're really looking forward to it. Season 4, I think, has a little short story by Penn Jillette in the Black Museum about the doctor that becomes addicted or fetishizes pain. I think that's one of the few Black Mirror storylines that's not written by Charlie Brooker or Annabelle Jones. The other being Nosedive, which was written by Michael Schur and Rashida Jones of The Office and The Good Place fame.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Shows that we can't talk about. We can talk about The Good Place here. We can't talk about the other shows here. So that's it. Let's move on to Runaway Season 1. Something that only myself and Hadi have seen. Let me break down what Runaways is. If you have not seen Runaways, it is an adaptation of a Brian K. Vaughan and
what's the other person's name?
Oh boy, I forgot. Brian K. Vaughan, Adriana Alfonso, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, is the artist for the initial run of Runaways. Runaways has had a lot of good writers come on. People like Joss Whedon, people like Rainbow Rowell have taken on Runaways. It's basically a story of a group of teenage kids who live...
Who literally ran away from their parents.
Literally, who live very privileged lives, but they find out that their parents have accumulated that privilege and wealth by being supervillains. So this is your usual teen rebellion, but with a good reason. Against parents who, number one, don't understand them and are literally evil. What did you think of Hulu's adaptation of Runaways?
Okay, first off, the casting was near perfect. Right? From the main kids were great, but I think what was impressive was they got the parents also. Right?
The Brian K. Vaughan comic book, as revered as it was, never actually focused on the parents. And by giving them personality and their own perspective, it allows you to empathize with them more.
I mean, why they became super villains,
it's not just like they woke up one day and be like, let's do crime.
So I thought that was an interesting twist. I mean, in the comics, they kind of mention it here and there, but I mean, perspective was mostly on the children.
Yes. That's one of the major complaints of the show, to be honest, actually. That it doesn't focus enough on the kids and focus too much on the parents. But I feel that is a positive.
It was a good balance, and it gave the kids... I mean, by the time it reached mid-season, it did drive that it did start to get the momentum going.
Correct.
Right.
It
was slow at the first few episodes.
It had to be in terms of
because
world building,
and all that,
establishing.
so it's fine.
Yeah.
But by the time you got to the 5th, 6th episodes, it was like, okay, let's go. We are going to run away soon.
Yes. To be fair, they did only run away in the final scene of the last episode, and it took 10 episodes for them to fulfill its promise of the title,
The Runaways,
which was quite aggravating for me. As much as I enjoyed how well produced and how well acted and how beautiful it looked, the music was good. I like the parents and everything, but for a show called Runaways to not have any runaways until the last. To be honest, until the next episode, the first episode of season 2, is a bit frustrating, and the lackadaisical pace is what people are complaining.
I agree. But overall, I felt that this series was a good indication that Marvel TV can expand into its other, and Marvel Comics can expand more into their less read comics lah.
Sure, yes. Freeform's adaptation of Cloak and Dagger has a very Runaways vibe.
Yeah, I mean,
so
Cloak and Dagger did appear on the Runaways in the comics.
In the comics, yeah. So this, Cloak and Dagger themselves are Runaways.
Yeah, they are Runaways.
Yeah,
they were the ones giving advice to the Runaways.
They were the OG Runaways.
They're the OG Runaways.
So I mean that's interesting. I'm looking forward to Cloak and Dagger as well. They look perfectly cast too.
Yeah.
Again, a teen drama. This particular series is created by Josh Schwartz, who is very famous for the OC.
Yep.
And if you've ever seen the OC, you know that what makes it great, right, is its focus on the parents.
Yeah.
It wasn't like just focusing on the teens, although they do the teenage drama really well, the interpersonal relationships, the love triangle between Nico, Chase, and Gert.
Yeah.
Perfect as well, Nico and Carolina. Yeah, the lesbian couple. It was very well done as well. So a lot of good representation in Runaways in terms of race, LGBT community, and culture. Although I mean they are rich lah. But I guess
kids lah.
Yeah lah.
But it's a bunch of privileged kids though. You're Asian, you're black, you're African American,
and different subcultures
guy.
also. You got your goth, your jock,
your nerd,
you know. Yeah, it's all the 80s tropes.
Yeah.
Breakfast Club.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
but slightly better though.
Than Breakfast Club?
No, in terms of the diversity.
Oh, yeah.
Not the story. Hey, relax.
Breakfast Club for mutants.
Yeah. Brian K. Vaughan has referenced the Breakfast Club a lot.
Of course.
As a big inspiration. So this is what the show is more. It focuses more on the teenage soap opera aspects of Marvel Comics than a usual TV show like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Daredevil would.
Yeah.
But it's a nice change of pace. And everyone always talks about the malleability of what comics can be, and this is what it is. It doesn't need to take place in Hell's Kitchen like all the other four Netflix shows that take place
in New York.
In New York lah. Or it doesn't need to be in space, or there are different aspects to this.
I agree.
And Runaways is a perfect encapsulation of a teenage soap opera.
I agree.
Done in this universe very believably.
I believe so. And I think that is something that can be recommended to people. They should watch it.
Yeah. We just have to add a caveat that they do not run away till the end.
Yeah.
So please do not be frustrated as I was.
Yeah.
Try to approach the show with an open mind and as its own thing, and don't expect it to be a faithful adaptation of Brian K. Vaughan's Runaways.
Though to be fair, it's quite a faithful adaptation.
It is. It's faithful not so much in terms of story, but in terms of spirit.
Yeah.
What the Runaways meant to represent is what the show represents.
I agree.
And as long as you keep true to its spirit, I feel like it's a faithful adaptation. Yeah. We'll be talking about another. I guess now we can call it a Marvel adaptation. A Disney adaptation. Now that Fox has bought over. Yeah. We'll be talking about The Gifted. The Gifted is a new television series by Matt Nix, and it takes place in the X-Men universe in Fox. Matt Nix are most famous for creating a show called Burn Notice about
spies.
Spies and Sunglasses in Miami.
Yeah.
Very very fun show, very quickly paced show. If you've ever seen Burn Notice, you know how The Gifted is gonna go. This basically looks at the day-to-day lives and the discrimination and oppression of mutants that the movies don't really deal with.
More of you're right.
Yeah. You've got a majority of the first season. What are your impressions
up to
so far?
episode 7? So I really love the world building.
Yeah.
Right? Like Sentinel services. I mean, the idea of how you had this feeling of desperation from the mutants that wasn't really caught in the movies.
Because the movies, as I kind of elaborated upon in the last episode,
Yeah.
always feel like a season finale.
Correct.
You don't see what led up.
To that moment, right?
And the small moments of discrimination or oppression, which might seem mundane, but if you watch Black Lightning, you know little things like a black man being pulled over and that happening
How
repeatedly.
it
It resonates and it just gets you pissed off, lah.
So so that was something that The Gifted kind of impressed me with, lah. The fact that that always that feeling of getting caught.
Yeah.
You know, they're always running away. Oh, sorry. No pun to our last.
I mean, you know, the other show also had a mutant, although they never actually called Molly.
They never called her a mutant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this idea of them always being in danger, never being truly safe, is something that that kept me watching, lah.
Yeah.
You know, and that the main character, the father,
Yeah.
Bill from
Vampire Bill. Vampire Bill, Stephen Moyer.
Stephen Moyer.
Yeah, but every time I watch it, it's like, oh, Vampire Bill.
Same.
You have powers too, Bill.
So you know his journey.
Yeah.
You know his acceptance of his kids being mutants.
Yeah.
His struggles with like Sentinel services and like what to do next.
Him being a human and caught on both sides.
On both sides,
yeah.
right? That I felt was very, very compelling.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to finishing up the season.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I finished the season and I think it's quite spectacular and one of the more consistent new Marvel shows out there. I think that towards the end of the season, it will focus more on the usual philosophical aspects of the X-Men, which is Malcolm X versus Dr. King.
Dr. King.
Yeah.
Violence and non-violence.
Violence and non-violence. The different approaches towards dealing with oppression.
Yeah.
And that in itself is very interesting. The dichotomy between the Mutant Underground and the reformed Hellfire Club, led by the Stepford Cuckoos.
Brilliant.
The Stepford Cuckoos themselves are actually the highlight of this particular season.
Can't wait to see them.
It's almost as if the last 5 episodes is an origin story for them.
Oh, okay.
And the more that I get to know them, the more I want this to be the Stepford Cuckoos show. But I realize that like there are more important issues out there as well. And one thing that it does address that the movies never address.
Yeah.
Because the movies, when they talk about Magneto and Professor X, specifically played by Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy, who acted the shit out of those roles and really emoted.
Yeah.
It talks about, you know, Malcolm King and Malcolm
X and Dr. King.
Who? I cross wires.
Fine.
Martin Luther King and Malcolm X.
I would watch that.
Yeah.
Malcolm King. Yeah.
Malcolm King.
It's like Onslaught.
It's like basically the Onslaught. Oh my god, Onslaught is Malcolm King. Who's the Juggernaut in this?
Never mind.
Yeah. So they usually only focus on
Muhammad Ali is Juggernaut.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Totally will watch that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. We should pitch this to Fox.
We will.
So like it only takes 2 perspectives from the oppressed side.
Yes.
But what I really love about The Gifted is it focuses on the human side as well.
So yeah.
Why they fear the mutants, why they might want to take such precautions against mutants. And when you see some stories from the human perspective, you kind of understand why they would go to such lengths to do these things.
I mean, spoiler alert, but like the Sentinel Services agent.
Yeah.
Right.
What happened to his child?
Why was he like that?
Yeah. It kind of deals with what Civil War deals with: unchecked power. The social responsibility of having powers like this, and you getting to big battles and the unintended consequences.
Correct. And I thought that did a better job. I mean, this series did a better job in explaining that than let's say the comics in Civil War 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like Mark Miller is not very good with quote unquote issues. He's good with the fighting.
He's good with the fighting.
Yeah.
The fighting was great.
Fighting was great.
Yeah.
But when actually dealing with the philosophical aspects of it.
So I thought The Gifted, it's just very different from the mutant. From the whole X-Men series, but still there's something oddly familiar to it.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I like also that the mutants that we're focusing on are younger mutants.
Yes.
They're kind of dealing the legacies of their parents.
Yep.
Stepford Cuckoos obviously dealing with Emma Frost. Polaris, who might or might not be Magneto's daughter. But you know, I mean, she is. Yeah. And a bunch of other mutants.
Yeah.
The only downside is, right, I only have one complaint about this season, is that random detour into the Mexican cartel storyline.
Yeah, I just started that.
The Mexican guy, yeah. I'm like, why?
Who's the actor, by the way?
I don't know. We should keep track of like the cast more. He's not Vampire Bill.
He's not Entourage guy, right?
Is he from Entourage? Really?
I don't think so. I hope not. He just gave me the vibe of the Entourage guy.
His name is Sean Theo. He plays Marcus Diaz, the rebellious mutant who can absorb and manipulate photons. You know, he's basically Cyclops with his hands.
His name is Eclipse, right?
Eclipse, correct. Yeah. My favorite actress on the show is Amy Acker, from Angel and all that. I think she's the most accomplished actor there. Everyone else is serviceable. Amy Acker is the only one that kind of above and beyond. But other than that, it's another downside. I'm not really fond of the people who play the two kids, the two main protagonists of the show. Natalie, Ellen Lin. And I think Sean Teal. No, Sean Teal is the other guy. Kobe Bell. Yeah, so it's they could be better lah.
They could.
Right now they just come across as annoying teens, which is the worst trope ever in television.
But it's alright. I mean, in season 2 might be better.
Yeah, they are growing. Minor spoiler if you don't mind.
Go ahead, man.
The boy child, the more violent one, joins the Hellfire Club at the end. Because obviously it's not even that big of a spoiler because you kind of knew
the traction the track was there already.
Because the other girl had defensive powers, which is a metaphor for her advocating peace and protecting. He was an offensive power, and he always wanted to go on the attack rather than defend. Why do you have to wait around?
I mean, he was always biting at the bit. I was like, come on, let me use my powers.
From the second he discovered his powers, right? So he does join the newly formed Hellfire Club.
Makes sense.
Who adhere to Magneto's values.
Okay. Because Magneto's Brotherhood has been disbanded, right?
Correct. Or are they?
Ooh.
There are people in the shadows that call themselves former members of the Brotherhood. Are they the new Brotherhood?
Yeah, exactly.
All of this will be explored more in the second season.
Can't wait for that. Again, recommended.
Recommend. If you're talking about the shows on this podcast and we make it a main
it's all recommended.
It's probably recommended. We have a couple of things that I really want to trash later, but we'll get to that. Next, we'll be talking about Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams.
Yes.
Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams is also an anthology series. It's actually showrun by none other than Ronald D. Moore. Ronald D. Moore of Battlestar Galactica fame. But the only difference is that Ronald D. Moore doesn't do all the episodes. It's not like Charlie Brooker and Annabelle Jones. All 10 episodes are written and directed by different British and American writers or directors.
A real anthology then.
A real anthology which gives each episode a more unique flavour than Black Mirror does, because it deals with different themes, it deals with different situations, and it deals with it's just more varied in terms of the storytelling that it can offer. It initially premiered in the United Kingdom on Channel 4 on 17th September, but that was not available to us in Singapore. But it recently premiered in Amazon this January. It comprises of 10 episodes, and it is based on Philip K. Dick's bibliography. If you know,
I mean, he had tons of short stories.
I mean, if you don't know Philip K. Dick and you're listening to this, I'm not sure you can call yourself a nerd, or a sci-fi fan.
Most sci-fi TV or movies that you've seen somehow is related to Philip K. Dick.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to point out that Phil K. Dick is a legend in the sci-fi field.
Definitely.
If you haven't read his works are essential and has influenced some of the most influential modern movies and television shows and manga and comics and all of that. A lot of the ideas came from Phil K. Dick.
Yeah, and we can't talk about him without talking about Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And everything that Blade Runner has influenced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Philip K. Dick's book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, is the basis of Blade Runner. Movies like Minority Report, TV shows like The Man in High Castle, A Scanner Darkly. These are just some of his most popular properties. But I always refer to Philip K. Dick as the J. Dilla of sci-fi. Like, there are dozens and dozens of his works that are popularized, but if you dig into his bag, there are hundreds more where that came from. And that's why he's perfect for an anthology series such as this.
Agreed.
Now, one downside to that is that Philip K. Dick's work has become so transcendent and influential that you might feel that this show is recycling things. That it feels familiar, but it's not the show's fault or Philip K. Dick's fault. It's because that every other sci-fi show and writer has taken inspiration. So his themes have been recycled over the last 50, 60 years. And that's the only reason why you might feel that, this isn't as groundbreaking as you hype it up to be. But you have to keep in mind that he wrote these stories like 5 decades ago. Most of these are really great short stories. Isa has caught a few of the episodes. What are your initial impressions?
So I caught The Hoodmaker and Impossible Planet.
Very different episodes.
Yeah, very, very different episodes. And the first thing that struck me, I mean, I've only caught 2 out of that. I'm hoping to finish all of it soon. And maybe we can add to that later on. But it's very much an anthology, right?
Yes, more than Black Mirror.
More than Black Mirror is just because like you've got different people writing the script, you've got different people helming the director has
Yeah.
helmed.
And we're not just talking about the writing, as in like the visual look of each episode is so different as
Yeah,
well.
and I think this is like clearly like is completely opposite to what like they've just done in Black Mirror season 4, whereby now they're unifying it into a single universe.
Correct.
The worlds can't be any more different.
Yeah.
At least from what I've seen so far
Yes.
of the 2.5-ish episodes that I've seen.
It will be impossible to link this universe.
Yeah, so there's definitely no threat of that happening in this particular round. Let's talk about Hoodmaker.
Yeah.
Right, so I quite like Hoodmaker. I thought the world was interesting. I didn't feel as though the world building was particularly strong, but then again, they only had, 50 minutes to kind of do all of that. And it was interesting how they decided to take liberties with the source material. You know?
And it's an adaptation.
Yeah, but in this particular, it was a very loose adaptation.
Blade Runner was very loose too.
That is true.
It focused more on noir aspects and atmospherics, which Hoodmaker is similar to that.
Yeah. I just felt that so Hoodmaker essentially was about we live in a world where the government has weaponized telepaths.
Yeah,
they're Teeps, and
they're feared for good reason.
Yeah, they're feared for good reason. So in the original story, if I remember my short stories correctly, it had something to do with a government agent who discovers this hood that prevents the Teeps from actually reading his mind.
Correct.
Right, and the implications of that plays out in the story. But for this particular one, we look at a government agent again, and a Teep who is partnered with him, and the implications of that relationship and how that relationship plays out in that particular world.
It's a more personal story.
It is a lot more personal, a lot more human or meta-human. So it may be.
It's a love story actually.
Yeah,
if you
and I thought I liked it. I wish there had been a bit more world building. There are all these references to the old world and how the internet used to work back then, and now that's been replaced by this psychic network. You know, she even does like this Google it thing in her mind.
It's a concept actually invented by Anne Rice, where telepaths can read other telepaths who read other telepaths who read other telepaths, and like that you can read the minds of everyone in the world. As long as the telepaths are broadly spaced.
It's an interesting concept that I've seen a couple of times in anime, especially for what is it called? Electric Railgun. But yeah, we'll get into anime later. So I thought it was pretty good. Impossible Planet was a lot truer to the short story itself.
Yes.
And I think like the good side of that was it managed to bring about a lot of the visual aspect in the short story.
Trippy,
that you have to very trippy, very cool visuals. But like the short story, it didn't feel like complete. You know, in terms of like there was no specific ending to it. There's a lot of things hung in the air.
It felt more like a tone poem.
And
it's meant to be ambiguous.
And the short story was a lot like that, right? And there were just like maybe a couple of differences. So very true to form, very true to the text itself, but at the same time like so different from what the Hoodmaker was.
Correct.
You know, which was a loose adaptation. It took a lot of liberties with it, but ultimately it told a great story.
A better story.
Better story in that. Then Impossible Planet, which kept the text, and tried to fill it in with like the visual aspect of it. And different approaches. I'm not really sure. I mean, I can't talk about the entire anthology per se because I haven't watched all of it. But these two different approaches make me very excited to catch everything else. But at the same time, I'm really trying to see like what works and what doesn't, because something like Electric Dreams is it gives us a very good look into how directors and writers and screenwrites approach doing adaptations, which is a dime a dozen these days.
Of course,
as well.
I feel like the first job of a person adapting a work has to be to make sure whether it fits the medium or not. You can't be Zack Snyder Watchmen or 300 where you just lift directly everything without any consequence or thought or consideration into whether it works in this medium. And in this particular case, it works more often than it doesn't. Hoodmaker was actually one of my favorites from the season. Not in the top 5, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I enjoyed the kind of it's very reminiscent of 70s IRA paranoia in the UK. I feel like that's what they were drawing from. The neo noir look also felt very 70s, although obviously took place in the future. That's what I liked about it. The Commuter is a very depressing episode and the most Black Mirror-ish of episodes.
Okay.
The Commuter, not the Liam Neeson movie where he's on a train killing people. This is another Commuter.
That would be a Black Mirror episode too.
Being
Stuck on a train with a murderous Liam Neeson.
Yeah. The Commuter is about a man named Ed Jacobson. He is very unhappy with his life. He works at a railway station.
Oh, okay.
He has a son who is borderline autistic. I'm not quite sure how to describe him.
Yeah.
Borderline autistic.
Okay.
And he has violent tendencies. He has violent rages. He acts out. Sometimes he hurts people. Sometimes he hurts animals. And he has trouble dealing with that. And his marriage is falling apart because of that.
Right.
One day he encounters a woman who goes to a particular station that doesn't exist. He follows her to that. And whenever you go to this particular station and you come back, your ideal life has magically happened. So in this ideal life, his son does not exist and was never born.
Wow.
And at first, he enjoys it, but then he grows to miss his son. You know, like he's trying to explain to this woman, I want my son back. There are moments of joy, you know, despite all my depression. You know, I love my son. But the woman is trying to explain. This woman is apparently omniscient. She's trying to explain that, like, in the future, your son would hurt a lot of people. You, because of your resentment, would hurt your wife. Do you really want that? You know, are these moments of joy and love worth it?
Wow.
And that's the question that he's forced to answer by the end. And I won't spoil what his choice is, but it's actually quite interesting and very profound and very human. And that's why it's one of my favorite episodes as well. Something that is totally on the opposite end of the scale is a murder mystery called Real Life, written and directed by Ronald D. Moore himself of Battlestar Galactica fame. Basically, it follows two officers, two crime fighters, shall we say.
Okay.
One is a police officer and one is basically Bruce Wayne.
Oh, okay.
But black, played by Terrence Howard, and the police officer is played by Anna Paquin.
So Bruce Wayne as in Millionaire Vigilante?
Correct.
Okay.
So both of these people exist in different timelines. One exists in the far future and one exists in our present day. Both of them apparently are hunting the same criminal.
Okay.
But because they've been so traumatized by what this criminal has done to them, in particular with Anna Paquin's police academy class was bombed by this criminal. On the other side, Terrence Howard's wife became a viral video. Her murder was caught on tape and forcing him to pay a ransom, which he didn't pay. So both of them are kind of traumatized by this. What they do, right, is they use basically a dream technology. So they put this on their head, a bit like Black Mirror's VR kind of thing, where it allows them to escape to another world. Where it's just it takes your subconscious and builds another world for you that you can escape into that is better. But the thing is, with this particular episode, you don't know which is the real world. Because when Anna Paquin goes to sleep, she does this and she wakes up as Terrence Howard. When Terrence Howard goes to sleep and he does this, he wakes up as Anna Paquin.
That's like Sideways?
A little bit.
It's like this other show.
No, Sideways is about wine, isn't it?
Oh no! Oh my god! What was the other one?
There's this short-lived series called Awake.
Oh yes, I remember that. Right.
So this is very interesting because you never know right up to the end who is the real person.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, and both of them have valid arguments as to why both are real. Because neither of their lives are perfect, and each of these personalities has something that they want in the other life.
Okay.
So you never know till the end what does it.
Ooh, I want to catch that now.
Yeah, it's quite brilliant. Ronald D. Moore, he takes a very grounded approach to a very far-fetched theme or concepts. Another favorite episode, in fact the favorite episode of all, is called Kill All Others by Dee Reese. If you have not seen Dee Reese's movie Mudbound on Netflix, it's actually one of the most important films of 2017. It's about the American Deep South, and the hardships that both the African American communities and white people face. This time she creates a show. She adapts a story called Kill All Others. Basically, it's a Trumpian analogy. So this is just it takes place in a world where North America is one giant country. It's called Mex Us Can. Mexico, US, Canada.
Makes sense.
Mex Us Can. Yeah. And all under the rule of one president. So this president is making a speech one day. Very innocuous speech. Talks about, we need to invest in the public school system, we need to invest in roads and the economy, blah, blah,
very
blah.
populist kind of thing.
But nothing really to get up in arms about. And then she makes in the middle of that, she makes a comment like, and we also need to kill all others. And then she moves on. And everybody thinks nothing of it. Nobody thinks it's weird except for him. He's the only one that keeps talking to other people. It's like, don't you think that was weird that she said, kill all others? What are others? Who are others? But the more he starts questioning this in public, the more he becomes an other. It's about the normalization of radical things. Like, you know how Trump says the most outlandish things?
Yeah.
And when you normalize it, it's quite scary.
Yeah. Oh.
Kill Orvis is probably like one of the most relevant to today episodes that they are, and maybe that's why it resonates so highly lah, also deeply. Safe and Sound, another great episode by Alan Taylor. It takes place in near dystopia future where America is split into two. One is very afraid of terrorism, and they have tight checks. In schools, there are metal detectors, there are bracelets that track everywhere.
Not that far-fetched.
Not that far-fetched, actually, exactly. But the other half of America has chosen not to live that way.
Oh.
They live in a free society.
Hippie.
Yes, it's exactly. They're portrayed as hippies.
Oh, okay.
So this story is particularly about a diplomat from the free world going into the controlled world. The controlled world. And the daughter follows her because it's a diplomatic mission, and she has to live 1 year in this very tightly controlled, paranoid society. That's always afraid of terrorism. And the more that she lives there, the more paranoid she becomes. Because they are afraid of the people from the other side, the west side. The freedom people who they claim have staged terrorist attacks and suicide bombings against them. Weirdly enough, nobody's actually ever seen it. They've only seen it on the news. Yeah, but it comes to a point at the end where even the daughter is convinced that her mother is a terrorist. And it's in the implications of a paranoid 24-hour news society where the government continually tells you who to be afraid of, who to believe.
North Korea.
The others. It could be North Korea or
and
even
early America now. America today.
Oh yeah, the early Maxer scan.
Early Maxer scan.
Yeah, Safe and Sound is really great. Artifact is probably the most beautiful of the shows. It stars Janelle Monáe as an android. And I think I'm just going to end it there because that sells the episode.
Yes,
yeah.
totally.
This is a wildly uneven series.
Oh, okay.
At its worst, it is intriguing but predictable. Again, through no fault of Philip K. Dick, because his themes have just been so overused by other people. But at its best, it is a very fascinating and insightful look into the human condition that I don't think you can find on Black Mirror.
Okay.
So this is a refreshing alternative.
Alright.
This is your outer limits to the Twilight Zone. The age of the anthology is back.
That's such a good analogy.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. I know.
Let's move on.
So I host this thing. Before we move on to Isa's Anime Corner, I would just like to shout out
Downsizing?
Yeah, a little movie called Downsizing. It's written and directed by Alexander Payne, who, weirdly enough, Isa brought up Sideways.
Yeah.
A road trip movie about wine.
Yeah.
No alternate universes there, but wine can make you feel that way.
Yeah.
So he's written things like about Schmidt, Election, Sideways, and The Descendants, some of my favorite movies. His themes that he likes to explore are middle-aged men facing an existential or middle-age crisis, and how a seemingly random series of events leads them on a personal journey. So the journey isn't so important so much as what you discover about yourself. And that's very similar to Downsizing, but I've just never seen him tackle a concept this high before. It's a sci-fi concept. So it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but on a more societal level. Like when scientists discover how to shrink humans to 5 inches tall, as a solution to overpopulation, solution to environmental degradation and stuff like that. Paul, played by Matt Damon, and his wife Audrey decide to abandon their stressed lives in order to get a small and move to a new downsized community, quote unquote a choice that triggers life-changing adventures. So the concept itself is very interesting in how they build their world, the scale of economy in the downsized world and in our world, the big world, how they come to that conclusion. Like for example, if you're worth maybe like $20,000 in the real world,
that'd be worth like $20 million. For
example, that's not the exact scale.
No, I know.
But like that's what the movie implies. Because obviously, if you want to eat meals when you buy a home, it costs very little. And it explores a lot of that. It talks about the larger issues of the real world. Sci-fi stories are metaphors, like allegories in microcosm. But this is microcosm quite literally, and I've never seen it taken so literally before. Downsizing has very interesting things to say about the economy, the environment, wage disparity, and class divisions. But the film's wild narrative curves, and there are a lot of twists and turns, never allows it to stay with one theme too long, so it's never quite fully fleshed out, although whatever they do bring up is interesting. Like for example, how do big people feel about the little people taking away jobs and economy and money, and why they are allowed such better lives, even though they're not actually contributing to the economy of the big world. Things like that, but it's just kind of in passing. and then they move on to the next theme, which is the environment, why people need to be small, and then they move on to the next theme, which is class divisions, and then they move on to the next theme and the next theme. So I would like the world building to be a bit more fleshed out, and for them to maybe stick to one theme to really explore what that means. But in the end, as I mentioned about Alexander Payne, that's not really what he's interested in. It's about Matt Damon's personal journey lah. And
Human story lah.
yeah, the grounded humanism and like the poignant personal journey is his strength.
Okay.
And downsizing often works or feels bigger when the stakes are smaller.
Alright.
Metaphorically speaking. Yeah. So that is downsizing. I think it's worthwhile to catch it. It's not a must-see or essential by any means.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting film. One of Alexander Payne's mid-range movies lah. Yeah. It's not as interesting as Sideways. Let's talk about Sideways, guys. Yeah. So that's all I have to say about downsizing. Now, Isa is going to go into Isa's anime corner. We should have a theme song for this.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
Next
yeah,
episode.
yeah, we should totally do that. I'm gonna find like a free J-pop song or something like
Don't
that.
you not just produce your own?
Yeah. Oh well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Okay, I'll give that a
You can do
try.
the Devilman Crybaby theme song.
Oh
which
man, I
which-
love that theme
which is
song.
such a bop.
I love it. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. Speaking of which, so basically this segment is about me sharing and talking about recommendations for the anime world pretty much, and what I've liked, what I really recommend people watch. And before we get into any of that, can I just say the Netflix anime selection is kind of killing it at the moment.
Yeah.
Really good mix of old stuff and new stuff, very well curated. There's something for everybody. And it's really been kind of, Netflix kind of has the advantage of doing that, but really kind of the hits from the last decade or so of anime and some of the best things that they've done so far. So let's talk about the good stuff first.
Okay.
Devilman, Crybaby, which
Yeah.
is a remake, I guess, of like the really popular 80s anime called Devilman. Of course, Crybaby kind of modernizes that entire aesthetic and as well as update the themes that are going on.
Yeah.
Again, in the whole tune of examining who the others are and so on and so forth. So the basic premise, as with the original anime, so not really a spoiler. This boy gets possessed by a demon, and in this particular world, the demons are a non-human race that basically have been possessing life forms since the beginning of time, since they were cast out of heaven.
Okay.
Right, and in order to survive, they've adapted to the world by taking on the characteristics of the life forms they possess. So modern day, real world, right now you have a boy who, I won't go exactly into how he gets possessed, but he basically gets possessed by a very powerful demon and somehow manages to subjugate the demon into his own personality.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it has to do with that internal struggle between his own identity and merging with that of the demon, as well as the ideas of trying to understand who he is right now that he is both at the same time, not quite human, not quite demon, and in this like sort of hybrid existence, his place in the world.
It's like an alternate universe Britney Spears song.
Oh, yeah, well, we're probably not quite. Yes. I'm guessing you could probably put a few Britney songs to the
Not quite a
sequences.
human, not yet a demon.
So basically, I highly recommend it. The art style is reminiscent of the old 80s art style, but much more fluid and much more, sometimes like shockingly sexual and trippy and bright.
Netflix says Netflix being a streaming service, you can do this.
Yeah, it's been excellent, and I think Netflix has been putting a lot of money into really good bets recently. Of course, there's plenty of other things that that have been hit and miss, but highly recommend it. It's not too it's not too long of a watch. It's about 20 to 25 episodes and about 8 to 12. Is it 12 episodes? 12 episodes. Well, your standard like anime season.
I do have to mention that the Devilman Crybaby theme song has become quite a meme online.
Yeah.
Where people are just editing it to other TV shows or people dancing on the streets, and it's quite hilarious.
Yeah,
Check it out.
It's really good.
Yeah.
The other one, which I guess is a little more obscure, is this one that is called Violet Evergarden. It's been 3 episodes in, and I'm hooked. I'm invested. artwork is gorgeous. It's reminiscent of I think it's Kyoto Studio that did it, and they've done some amazing stuff in the last couple of years. Very, very detailed, very, very colorful. Music, the score is amazing. And essentially they are in a post-war world. You don't really know whether it's near future or far future, but it centers around a former child soldier / weapon who is trying to reintegrate herself into society, and she does so by working for a post office where they have these things called automatic dolls, automatic message dolls, which was the original name for the typewriter.
Oh.
Right, so that was the original name of the typewriter, and the creator of the typewriter created the typewriter so that his wife, who was a novelist and turning blind, could continue to write her stories.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that was the original name, and that moniker has now been transferred to these girls who essentially help the uneducated to write letters to other people in a post-war world. And it's a booming business, but she's been a soldier for so long. She's known it all her life, and she's got like her arms been replaced and they're made of metal. So all the technical things she's great at. She's a great worker, she's hardworking, she follows orders, but she simply doesn't understand how to emote.
Right.
And her entire reason she chooses this profession at the behest of her benefactor is because she wants to understand what emotion is and the ability to express that. So far it's been basically about her struggle, trying to get to know the job, the details of the job, and trying to execute her job as best as possible in this military approach that she's always known. And it's been great so far. I think it's going to shape up to be a great anime. Already, like, all the technical aspects of it have been very impressive. But I'll be keeping a lookout for that.
Awesome. Any other animes you want to recommend? Or disrecommend, if that's the word?
Okay, so one more good stuff. This is not really an anime, but anime related. Netflix has also done a live action adaptation of Blade of the Immortal. And it is phenomenal.
Now this is how a live action anime adaptation should be like.
Yeah, and we've gotten so much shit ones, right?
Is this the first good one?
In a while.
Oh, I did think that the first Samurai X movie was more than serviceable, right? And the later ones were kind of trash. But I think this is the first time I've been genuinely impressed
right?
by one, right?
Same.
And like, sorry Hollywood, like what you guys have been doing sucks.
Yeah.
We'll see. There are a couple more coming up this year with Battle Angel and
Alita, right?
Battle Angel Alita,
which is anime eyes.
Yeah, it's strange. We'll see if that turns out well. I mean, it is Spielberg after all.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that turns out.
He has recently rediscovered his form with the Post, although this is obviously very different.
Yeah.
And then he's going to do Ready Player One, or again something else very different. Yeah.
So it looks like it might be Spielberg's year again. We'll see.
We'll see.
With all these big blockbusters.
This is nothing to do with genre, but I just heard that Steven Spielberg is remaking West Side Story.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, as a movie?
Yes, as a musical.
As a musical? Oh, wow.
Musical movie. Yeah.
Is he like making it edgier?
I don't know. But my initial thought was like, after his success with Jaws, right, he wants to deal with more sharks. But Puerto Rican ones this time, not white one. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a little musical joke if you're a musical nerd, which I am too. Let's do a musical podcast.
I don't mind.
Where we actually like talk about it in song and dance. Then we compose like new songs.
Oh my goodness.
Whoa, a lot of work.
Yes, so please catch that. Like, there's some sequences that I would have never thought possible to do live.
Damn.
Especially the fight sequences. I mean, because anime allows you to do pretty much anything.
Yeah.
But shot for shot, almost.
That, like, the first scene, the one where he like fights like 200 people at one time.
Amazing stuff. Of course, it being a samurai thing and all of that, heavily influenced by Kurosawa. And of course, the original anime was heavily influenced. In fact, one of the first anime to directly kind of reference his style and the cinematography that he did, and therefore kind of influencing a lot of samurai animes that we've come to love over the last.
People are surprised, like how widespread Kurosawa's influence is. To the point where even a lot of westerns are influeed by Kurosawa. Magnificent Seven, a direct adaptation of Seven Samurai.
So excellent stuff. Please go check that out. Now on to the one kind of stickler I have. So
Can we talk about Godzilla?
yes, we are going to
let's
talk about Godzilla.
Then out the monsters.
Oh, my
Oh
God.
Jesus Christ! We were so hyped. For
We
this.
were incredibly hyped because
The premise was cool.
the premise was cool.
Yeah.
The trailer was great.
Yeah.
It didn't give too much away, right? Which I liked about.
Yeah.
Done by the same studio that brought you Knights of Sidonia.
Yeah.
And Ajin, which have been two very very big anime in the last 5
Exactly.
years.
Yeah.
With their very very specific cell shading art style that they have,
Which
it's
is-
coming increasingly popular.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe talk about cell shading has become very popular in the last couple of years because it allows animation studios to save a lot of money because a lot of processes are automated as opposed to being drawn by hand.
Yeah.
So I thought it was
cell shading on the seashore.
Yes.
three shades cells on
The seashore.
Yeah.
So explain the premise before we move on, I guess.
Godzilla.
Yes.
No, as in like this particular.
Oh, cell shading.
No, this particular Godzilla.
Shade.
right? So we've had
This is a different Godzilla.
It is.
Yeah.
we've had the Hollywood adaptation of Godzilla.
1988.
Not well, yes, that
Oh,
right.
okay.
The
It had
1988 one.
it had Puff Daddy, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like some
What's his name? Matthew Broderick.
Matthew Broderick.
yeah.
And Hank
I
Azaria.
actually didn't mind that one that much if you kind of like take away all of the canon that Godzilla had before that.
Yeah.
It was an okay standalone.
Gareth Edwards one was pretty good too.
I really did like Gareth Edwards one. I just thought there were a couple of things that he could have addressed, but it was a beautiful movie.
Yeah, I just quite hated like everybody body shaming Godzilla in that movie.
Yeah.
So what if he's fat?
You know, it's not just that. I like the focus on the monsters were great, but that I felt they kind of got away with some pretty shoddy actings from some pretty great actors.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
Scarlet
Yeah.
and Quicksilver.
Just 2 months before Age of Ultron came out, man. This
Yeah,
is quite
and
insane.
it was like, oh my goodness.
I mean,
Ken Watanabe.
Yeah,
And
Ken-
yeah,
Not
That-
just
that
more
fight.
Right, and of
Yeah,
course
that's
Bryan
good.
Cranston, who would have been
Who died in the
amazing.
first 20 minutes,
Yeah, and he died.
But it also gave us the line, let them fight.
Let them
Let them
fight.
fight.
So I guess it's a win.
I guess so. A great fight scenes, great
Yeah.
CGI.
So this particular anime is about a far-flung future
Yeah.
where Godzilla and other kaiju have taken over the Earth.
Yes.
And humans have moved to space.
They have
with the
fled.
help of extraterrestrials.
Yes. So in the war against Godzilla,
Mm.
right? And apparently, like they say, they dropped 150 nuclear bombs on Godzilla simultaneously.
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Isn't nuclear bombs what made Godzilla?
Yes.
Actually, they don't address his origin here. Well, but then again, you
Yeah.
know, it's been done to death. So kaijus appear,
Yeah.
start wrecking havoc around the world. Godzilla appears
Yep.
and starts wrecking the kaijus and the
The world.
humans.
Yeah.
So ultimately, they decide that, you know what, fuck this.
I mean, the aliens
come
came.
Yeah.
Aliens tried to help the humans out.
Yeah, they built a Mecha
They said,
Godzilla.
they said they'll kill Godzilla if they got given land to live
Yeah,
on, right?
yeah.
Mm.
And
It
that
didn't
doesn't
work
work out.
Mecha Godzilla
Uh,
couldn't be switched on.
Yeah, they couldn't switch on Mecha Godzilla.
Have you tried turning it on and off?
They did.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't even turn on, right? And so they hightail it out,
Yeah.
right? And at the point when we get into the story, the humans,
20 years?
the humans and other races,
20 years, right?
22 years,
22 years? Yeah.
they have been wandering around space looking for a substitute to Earth,
Yeah.
and ultimately, to cut a long story short, they head back to Earth.
Yeah.
And they realize that 20,000 years
And
have
passed.
passed.
Because of like the light speed stuff and all that.
Yeah, well, relativity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they just want to go in, kick the shit out of Godzilla, and reclaim the Earth.
So why isn't this as good as other Godzilla adaptations?
Well, for Shin Godzilla, right, which was a great movie in my opinion.
Fantastic, one of the best Godzilla movies ever. I
You know,
think.
Yeah.
the focus was on the bureaucracy, the political.
The intrigue of Godzilla has always been to me is its metaphor.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked about sci-fi is always metaphor, right?
Yes.
Godzilla has always been a metaphor
Yes.
for nuclear fear and nuclear annihilation, especially in Japan post Hiroshima
Yeah.
and Nagasaki.
Mhm.
It kind of is a representation of their fear.
Yeah.
And stretching past that, something like Shin Godzilla is about the inability of bureaucracy to
The
deal with
initial, yeah.
to deal with natural disasters, or the
Correct.
inertia, the NUI, how people are just constantly shifting blame
Yeah.
or
Instead of fixing the problem.
which is all governments, all
Yeah.
bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was what's interesting about Godzilla, like that. It's the metaphor. It's the metaphor here.
Yeah. So for Shin Godzilla, you don't see Godzilla. Oh well, for all the Godzilla movies, you don't see Godzilla for a fair bit.
He's an idea.
Yeah.
It's an idea.
And the problem is with, I think, Planet of
Monsters.
Monsters is that it takes so
Too much
long.
monsters.
Mhm.
for them to actually get back to Earth, and the whole entire setup is draggy as fuck.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like you expect more, or at least I expected more from an anime.
Yeah.
About Godzilla, right?
I agree.
The fights were short. The metaphor in this particular case was more of the Earth coming to reclaim herself.
Godzilla is Gaia.
Yeah,
In a way,
Godzilla is
yeah.
Gaia, pretty much, right? That metaphor was a little too on the nose, but at the same time not completely explored.
Yeah.
You know? So they come back and they're just like firebombing this new Earth with new ecology, where everything is kind of like radioactive and made of metal, organic metal and stuff like that. And they beat Godzilla, and then they realize it's not Godzilla, and that's the end of part 1, which I didn't know about. I thought it was the entire thing, but apparently it's a 2-part thing.
Yeah.
So
I watched the first 5 minutes, and then I couldn't even make it through this 80-minute thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want a part 2.
yeah, I mean, like now that I've already invested like the time, right? Because I started on it 4 times before I actually got through the entire thing.
Oh boy.
Just for you guys, by the way, I only finished it because we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, we need something to like discourage viewers. It can be all positivity.
True.
Yeah,
This is one of them.
I don't know. Like I'm gonna hold my reservations as a whole about Planet of the Monsters until part 2 comes out. But so far, I'm not impressed. Very disappointed with a medium that offers you endless possibilities. They went with the most predictable outcome and the most predictable plot twist that you saw coming a mile away.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. It's up to you. I mean, if you're a big Godzilla fan, maybe, right? But
you can skip it if you have other things in your life.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I would highly recommend you to watch Shin Godzilla instead.
Yes, Shin Godzilla is excellent.
Yeah, Shin Godzilla being a live action, they managed to do so much more.
Exactly, right? Like, oh man, just the thematic treatment alone was great.
Yeah. So right now I'm just gonna quickly recommend my quick recommend corner,
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
which is what we call it, I guess. I'm gonna recommend 3 things. Number 1 is an Indonesian horror movie called Pengabdi Setan. It's a remake of a classic 1980 horror movie.
Yep.
This time by Joko Anwar, and it's actually become a sensation in Malaysia and Indonesia. It's I think one of the top grossing movies of 2017 on any genre.
Yeah.
And I was kind of curious as to what the hype was.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good. Joko Anwar's commitment to the lo-fi film language of old school horror really makes it feel familiar, but at the same time his patient character building and creative twists make it feel fresh. The scares are expertly staged. Jump scares are there, but they're not cheap.
Okay.
It's built up via sequence. Like a good action sequence should have a payoff, which is the scare.
Yeah.
In this particular instance, you have like long tracking shots, or things playing with like your line of sight. Very traditional lo-fi horror film language, which Joko Anwar really captures. And what makes it scarier? Okay, this is what I wanted to ask you guys, right?
Go ahead.
Like, what I feel like this movie is scarier to us because of context.
Definitely.
We grew up with this mythology and fearing these things, which is why, say, vampire stuff doesn't scare us, Or I mean, you get what I mean, lah. But like you're set. This is set in a kampung. You
Pontianak so scare you lah.
poncho. Stuff like that, lah. It scares us, lah. Do you think that context is key for horror as well?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
In terms of your upbringing, your culture.
I mean,
For sure. I mean, like for this, we will be definitely referencing stuff that we've watched before as kids, right? And what was scary back then. Definitely, for some of us, it's definitely going to be scary
but then
now.
you see on the other side also there is like Korean horror, for example.
Sure.
Yeah, or Thai horror, for
Thai
example.
horror,
Like Shutter became massive across the world. And I think like that entire period of time, especially when The Ring first came out, like the Japanese one, not the rubbish that Hollywood did, right? That spewed an entire fascination with the way horror is told in Asia, and for Thailand, Southeast Asia in particular, that I think really captured Western imagination. So I don't know. I think it's definitely more scary because it's close to home. But if it's good, I think that international appeal is not.
So it's more like the direction, the how the story is played out.
I feel like this is very well directed. Joko Anwar is a huge fanboy of the original film because I went to watch the original film after this. And he makes so many like clever, really like very nerd callbacks. Which I kind of never seen in a Malay context.
Okay.
That's cool.
This is a very nerdy movie if you're a horror buff, and specifically a Malay horror buff.
There's
which
a
is
niche.
a smaller niche.
Yeah.
The horror itself is already a small niche.
Yeah, it is.
So in terms of Malay horror, one of the best I've ever seen.
Oh, nice.
It's also, I mentioned it's
Wait,
also,
Malay or Indonesian?
it's Indonesian.
Okay.
Well, I'm just
Yeah, I know.
we're all one people.
Okay.
Unity. What I wanted to say was that like I talked a lot about its old schoolness
Yeah.
approach, its traditional approach,
Mhm.
but at the same time, there's a lot of modern flourishes to it.
Oh, nice.
There are long Scorsese-esque scenes set to Indonesian pop music, like funk music, that all feel action oriented and feel more at home in a Tarantino film
Okay.
than in a horror film. And there is like kind of this modern stylistic flourishes that I mean obviously you won't see in a 1980s
Yeah,
film,
yeah.
Yeah.
which makes it kind of cool to me. Highly recommend it. You should watch it. It's you can watch it I think in cafe cinemas now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Most probably will catch it.
definitely. I also want to recommend Scooby-Doo and Batman: Brave and the Bold. This is an animated children's WB and WB production.
Okay.
Most of the time WB they have kind of settled into a more adult-oriented content,
Yeah.
such as The Killing Joke or Gotham by Gaslight, stuff like that. But their kids stuff is actually really on point.
Oh, okay.
Batman: The Brave and the Bold and Scooby-Doo, you would think that it's a weird mix, but if you've seen Batman: Brave and the Bold, it's right at home with Scooby-Doo.
Procedural detective kind of thing?
The campiness, the self-referential, the self-awareness,
Okay.
the puns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's quite fantastic. This movie is actually really funny.
What?
Like there are a lot of jokes for adults, much the same way if you watch Paddington 2 or the Lego Batman movie. There's stuff for adults and for kids.
Okay.
So basically, this is Batman recruiting the Mystery Inc. gang into the Mystery Analysts of Gotham, which is Gotham's premier detective agency, made up of Batman, Detective Chimp, Martian Manhunter, and other illustrious DC detectives.
Okay.
Aquaman is long for the ride because he feels left out. Aquaman is portrayed like a surf bro, but not like Jason Momoa Aquaman, like a really like dumb surf bro.
Oh no.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
but it makes for some
It's
of
cute
the
lah.
it makes for some of the more hilarious moments
Okay.
in this particular thing, and also it's weird because like some of his dumb moments actually provide the key to some of the mysteries,
okay,
by
okay.
accidents.
Alright.
I really like how the focus on this particular one is on how smart Daphne is. Like Batman has one case that has never been solved. There is this like long running joke in the Mystery Analysts of Gotham where everybody just meet up once a week and they pick out a case file.
Yeah.
And then everybody has like huge case files of unsolved cases. Like Batman only has one, ranging from his 1 year, one story like he's never been able to solve.
Yeah.
But Daphne solves it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it's cute, it's funny, well worth your time. It's a better 80 minutes of your time than Godzilla is, I feel.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
definitely catch it then.
Yeah.
else?
Last but not least, I would like to recommend the Nancy Boys. Which is a BBC adaptation, BBC radio adaptation
Adaptation, yes.
of Neil Gaiman's famous novel.
Isn't Grey Worm in this?
Grey Worm, yeah.
Right? He's Fat Nancy, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Fat Charlie.
Fat Charlie. Fat
Yeah.
Nancy.
Fat Charlie.
For those of you who don't know, the Nancy Boys is a spin-off of American Gods.
Yep.
It's a fantasy novel by Neil Gaiman. It's an incarnation in which an incarnation of a West African trickster by the name of Anansi
Anansi, yeah.
dies, and he leaves two sons who in turn discover each other. So this BBC radio play is wonderfully atmospheric. I think it's very, very well done. You don't
I heard
even,
a bit of it. And
you don't even really have to pay too much attention to
Yeah.
it, but you get the feeling and the emotion
Okay.
and the story. It's something that you can do while doing work, while driving, while
Nice.
taking a train on the way to school or whatever. You know.
Uh-huh.
It's fantastic lah. In particular, I would like to point out that Lenny Henry is a great voice actor. He plays both Anansi and Mr. Nancy, obviously lah.
Okay.
And he kind of carries this radio adaptation.
Okay.
I did not grow up with radio plays. It's not
It's not our genre.
It's not
not our time period.
not our bread and butter lah.
Yeah.
Lah. Like no, I mean I obviously heard the Orson Welles, War of the Worlds, one of the
Yeah.
famous ones, but stuff like this is not my cup of tea lah.
Yeah.
But BBC Radio has actually been doing a bunch of this over every Christmas.
Yes, and a lot of it with Gaiman.
The last one was
Neverwhere.
Stardust.
Yes, and
Oh.
that was
That's
excellent.
Neverwhere
Neverwhere.
as well. Yeah.
The Neverwhere one was really good.
Yes, excellent.
Yeah.
It had star-studded cast.
Yeah. It had like Tyrion, Tywin Lannister.
I know I'm just.
I know I'm just.
Are you just like randomly naming Game of Thrones people?
Okay, people.
We've talked about Game of Thrones last episode, man. Yeah, but anyways, this is a fun listen. It's still on the BBC website for
Ooh,
international viewers. Listeners.
Like you guys.
Yeah, international listener. Yeah, you're listening too. Hey, until we do video, you'll only be listening to us.
Yeah.
Because we have faces for radio.
Hey.
Okay, I speak for myself. Yes, but it is running out soon. I think there's only a week left to listen.
No, okay.
But if you are on the internet and you know how to procure contents,
If you're resourceful,
I'm not saying that
We're not suggesting
we're not
anything.
condoning it, but it's out there to be had if you want it.
Yeah.
Not on the BBC, via other.
Up to you to
But
decide.
you still have time now.
Yeah.
You still have time now, lah.
Like, highly recommended. Go listen to it, and everything else that the BBC radio has been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're down to like our last few topics.
What's our last few topics?
Before we end with our last two topics, let's talk about the 25th anniversary of Star Trek.
Yes!
Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I almost said Discovery.
I know.
I hate Discovery.
I was so happy.
We will 25th anniversary.
Okay, we'll have a little bit about that later. So like, let's.
What weird time warp did I go? 25th anniversary of Discovery. And people are actually like thinking of it as like a revered series. Okay, never mind. Fuck
So
it.
this is Star Trek.
Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine.
It's 25th anniversary. Myself and Hardy especially is a huge fan of Deep
This
Space
is where
Nine.
we don't disagree. We
Yes.
agree totally on Deep Space Nine.
We agree on TNG, Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. Just not on Discovery.
Just not on Discovery. Why do you think that Deep Space Nine made such an impression, and why do you think its legacy has lasted 25 years?
Because first of all, it expands on the Star Trek universe, right? It goes into areas such as religion a lot more deeply, and the fact that it's on this very diverse space station, and you have interactions between the alien characters, like open discrimination sometimes.
Sure.
Like it feels, it was very raw, and it wasn't as idealistic as TNG or the original series. You know, the whole Starfleet what do you call it? The whole Starfleet directives and all that, right? This Space Nine was just, you're in a space station, you're managing the space station, you're managing all these different cultures, right? A very Tower of Babel kind of situation happening. You have new aliens coming in, you know, imposing their culture sometimes.
Yes.
That kind of thing. And all these interactions speak more realistically about culture in general in the world, where a less idealistic version, more of a realpolitik kind of version.
What I would say to that is that Star Trek Deep Space Nine exists in the same boat. It is there is a utopia there.
Yes, there is.
There is an idealism and inherent optimism there. What Deep Space Nine does that TNG does not is deal with the real world complexities or something like that.
Yes.
A utopia for one culture is not utopia for another culture.
Exactly.
And that leads to conflict.
Yeah.
And TNG does address that sometimes, but on a more episodic nature, and doesn't really delve into how complex it can be.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's really what I love about it.
And Deep Space Nine, you know, had this whole the whole overarching theme was you know, how to live with one another, how to use love.
I mean, TNG was a lot like that as well, but it was more optimistic. But this was more a more
realistic version of love.
In terms of politics, in terms of religion, because we face similar complexities in the real world, where our culture has one idea of utopia and what it means to be open and progressive, when another culture doesn't. But it doesn't mean one culture is better than the other culture. You have to learn how to compromise and understand each other.
And I think having a character like Cisco, Captain Cisco, as your centerpiece, right? Helps bring all this together. He was on the journey with us. Oh, sorry, we were on the journey with him. Right, as he was getting comfortable as his station as the commander. Right, of the station of Deep Space Nine. His interactions with the aliens and all that were very different. From like what Picard would do. Because I don't want to compare him to Kirk, because Kirk is a moron sometimes. You know what I mean?
I mean, both the J.J. Abrams Kirk and the original Kirk.
Right?
We can do a captain comparison another time.
But because Picard was the most recent when compared to Cisco, he came during that period of time. So when Cisco came on board, and his mannerisms and how he interacted with people was more natural.
Picard was upright. Very. I mean, it was Patrick Stewart being a thespian. But that's mostly what it was.
But when you had Cisco, you had a guy who like punched you in the face.
A guy who actually leaned back when he was sitting. Little things like that. Right? He slouches.
He slouches.
Oh my god, he slouches. What kind of Starfleet captain are you? You slouch.
So if you think that Discovery was was changing the norms of Star Trek. No, Deep Space Nine was the original.
Yeah, but Deep Space Nine didn't change the
No, I
norms.
know.
It
introduced a more realistic perception of certain things that was not really explored in TNG lah.
Yeah. And I also dislike when people call it the darker Star Trek because it isn't.
It's not the darker Star Trek.
There's a great deal of heart and humor
Yes,
and love
correct.
in it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even an entire episode where they put a bomb in a tribble,
Yes.
which is
yes.
fucking tribble, you know. It's a tribble suicide bomber.
Yeah, it is.
How dark can it be? This is Nine will always like have place in my heart because it introduced me to Brian Fuller. It was Brian Fuller's first ever writing job.
Okay.
And without Deep Space Nine, we would never get Pushing Daisies,
Yeah,
or American Gods, or Hannibal,
Yeah.
or Wonderfalls, or things like that. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
Brian Fuller was supposed to run Discovery, and I can't help but think that it might be a bit different.
Yeah, but it will have been.
Yeah,
We'll talk about Discovery in the next show lah, when they wrap the season.
correct. Yeah.
Actually, it just came out. The last episode.
Is that the last episode?
Yeah, the last episode just.
Yeah, I just watched it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the last.
Oh, that's the last episode. Oh,
Well,
okay.
yeah. Well, we'll
We'll talk about it next
we'll-
week. Next month.
next month. Yeah, we'll devote an entire segment to Star Trek Discovery.
Yes.
Why it's good, why it's
It's
bad,
bad,
why I
yeah.
hate it, why you love it,
Yeah.
and how it challenges established institutions within the Star Trek lore.
Yep.
Yes.
So look forward to that. It'll be a very one of the nadir discussions we will have.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
also, it will be quite a heated one, I think.
I think, yeah, it will be. If you've ever seen the Last Jedi comment section,
It'll be pretty like
prepared
that.
for that. Yeah,
No, we agree on The Last Jedi.
we do agree
Yeah.
on The Last Jedi.
It's just Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah,
Where we
yeah.
don't.
The Last Jedi has its detractors lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the three of us are not three of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have our issues.
Yes, we do.
but
But we love the movie.
I don't
overall.
think. But okay, love is a bit far.
Okay, we like the movie.
We like the
overall.
movie, but I also think that the movie is
It's far from perfect.
it's just okay, and I can't fathom why it's inspired so much devotion
right?
and anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the same time. Yeah.
I'm so tired of talking about Last Jedi.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so tired of
Let's-
it, and then
let's
like
talk about
I
it.
get dragged back into it regardless by expressing my frustration about
Yeah,
talking
I
about
know.
it, and then we talk about it some more. Star Wars is a way of doing this to pop
Yeah, it
culture.
does.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. The second last segment will be the pull list, which is something every month. So every month, myself, Hadi, or Isa will be introducing or recommending 3 titles that we've been reading, either current or recent, comic books, books, manga.
Yep.
Basically, just reading material for you to brush up on.
Yeah.
This particular month, I'll be talking about 3 titles. One
What are
is Tom King's run on Batman.
Oh, excellent.
Which,
Excellent.
I know if you follow me on social media, I've kind of been like on my knees blowing this run
Yes,
like
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
A lot,
Like
yeah.
every week I'll have like 3 or 4 posts. Oh
Deservedly
my god!
so.
It's so
Let me suck Tom King's dick. He's so good. But really, Tom King is the exact opposite of Scott Snyder, who he took over from.
Okay.
Scott Snyder.
Yes, yes.
Scott Snyder was like Jonathan Hickman, and he was very good with big, broad ideas,
Yeah.
gigantic conflicts, and
Yeah.
world building.
Yeah.
What Tom King excels in is
Personal relationships.
delving into the psyches of superheroes and their personal relationships, interpersonal relationships. Batman and Catwoman was one of those things that made me go, huh? When I first heard about it.
Yeah.
But the more you explore and the more Tom King delves into the relationship, the more you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how that played out as well, right? With the double date. And
Yeah.
then with what happens with
Yeah,
Wonder Woman.
exactly.
Yeah.
With Wonder Woman, or even
The one where they went to fight in that
Yeah.
dimension.
yeah.
Where
Or
they lived together for how many hundreds of years?
relativity, guys. So
Yeah.
it's not hundreds of years.
But for them.
For them, yeah, correct. And what's interesting about Tom King is other stories that he's done, like, which are comparatively small scale and smaller stakes,
Yeah.
but they feel important too.
Mm.
One of the stories that he won an Eisner Award for was basically about how Batman got his dog. And it's one of the sweetest stories I've ever read. It's heartwarming. But at the same time, he can do big conflicts as well, like the War of Jokes and Riddles.
Yeah.
But
that was
within the
excellent.
War of Jokes and Riddles, also there was a small story about Kite Man that was heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Absolutely heartbreaking. And Tom King has been really killing it over the past
Catman is such a
5
joke
years.
character, but
From
Yeah, pretty
like
much.
Mr. Miracle, his
Yeah.
Vision,
His vision was
run
excellent.
on Marvel.
oh, Vision Run.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that was great.
That was Tom King as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Tom King.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was really good. It was so
If you
sweet.
have
It was such a
not,
sweet story.
yeah, basically Tom King
And
has
also-
been killing it.
Yeah.
The Vision run is great, but
Mm.
this current Batman run has been phenomenal.
Okay.
So he has, I mean, obviously when he took over from Scott Snyder, he had huge shoes to fill because Scott Snyder was considered a modern master of Batman.
Yeah.
Big reputation. He's done a lot with its mythology. He's still doing a lot of its mythology with Dark Knight's Metal right now, which is also equally good. But Tom King is more Batman, Like, it really delves into what Batman is.
The Batman psyche.
The Batman psyche. And weirdly enough, the only thing I can compare it to is the Lego Batman movie, which
also delves into the Batman psyche.
It's the only other thing that has done a deep dive into Batman psyche, weirdly enough. Tom King can't come more highly recommended. His Batman run. You know what? Fuck it. Just read everything Tom King has ever written. He has a series coming out called Century that deals with PTSD in superheroes. Like a support group, you know. If you've seen The Punisher, the early episodes.
When they have that little...
for war veteran
thing.
But for superheroes.
Ideal.
And, you know, it makes sense. Like, why don't superheroes have PTSD? They should, right?
They see the worst of shit.
They deal with this on a regular basis.
And also, it's like 10 times worse than whatever, you know, a normal human can deal with.
Yeah, exactly. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I would also like to recommend Ryan Knopf's run on Squirrel Girl, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, which is meta, it's self-aware, it's funny, it often critiques what's going on in the Marvel Universe itself by kind of poking fun or satirizing major crossover events. Like, there's this one time that Squirrel Girl had to be rebooted into a new #1 because of Secret Wars. And then the headline in the fucking front page, the cover page, was only our second #1 in a year. They always do very, very cool stories. Like, there's this stories told in circle. Like a drawing of Loki. Basically, that you can read backwards and forwards and it tells different stories with the same text. That's fucking amazing. There's this story about how Squirrel Girl tries to do an anthology comic book to raise funds for a library that has been demolished.
So she gets other artists from
the Marvel her friends from the Marvel universe. So she had Galactus draw a story. She had Loki draw a story, which was that was Loki's story. Well written Loki.
Very Loki.
Yeah, very Loki. They had Wolverine tell a story about how Wolverine had to overcome his prejudices against the Sentinel.
Which was very good.
Turning of the table, so to speak. Sentinel wanted to do a good thing. Wolverine doesn't want to believe him, but then, like, you know, bro, that's discrimination. Just because I'm a Sentinel doesn't mean I'm bad. Good stuff. And last thing I want to recommend is a book called Abbott. Yeah, by Saladin Ahmed. This is okay. Let me explain the premise to you.
Go ahead.
So, it's about a hard-boiled black reporter, and it's set in 1970s Detroit.
Okay.
This
sounds interesting.
This reporter, she covers the civil rights movement, the struggle of the Black Panthers, gang violence, a racist police department, police brutality and stuff like that. That's what she does by day, and the first issue mostly covers on that.
Okay.
But by night, right, she fights demons and supernatural forces.
Constantine, like.
Yes, she is. Constantine meets Dana Scully meets Lois Lane.
Wow. Oh shit.
Yeah. And she deals with both sides equally, and neither side feels more important than the other. Like, whenever she goes off to fight demons and vampires and stuff, or the occult, then she's always leaving behind some important issue that she has to deal with in the real world to deal with that. And neither side is more important than the other because there will be bloodshed. And it really delves into not just 1970s African American experience, like the African American experience in general, because nothing much has changed, to be honest. Just with the added aspect of this being a supernatural noir as well.
Man, I want to read that too.
Because like her husband was murdered by occultists, and she's trying to figure out how that happened.
That sounds interesting, right?
That is, yeah.
Okay,
I'm going to check that out.
Saladin Ahmed, great novelist, also a poet. I think this is his first comic book, so very good, very prosy. But she talks like.
It's like when what's his name?
Not Taika. You were going to say Taika Waititi.
No,
what?
Ta-Nehisi Coates. When he first wrote Black Panther, it was also very prosy.
Yes.
It is still quite prosy. It's better. He's getting used to the medium.
Okay. And that's my pull list for for February. And before we end off the show, we would like to talk a bit about Ursula K. Le Guin.
Tribute.
A little bit of a remembrance. She is a sci-fi and high fantasy legend. A giant of literature, as Neil Gaiman called her. One of the more, like Philip K. Dick, one of the more influential figures in all of sci-fi. She recently passed away, sadly. Have you read any of her books? And
Earthsea, man.
The Earthsea trilogy is one
That's
of her.
the only thing that I've read of hers, but it really struck quite a chord with me.
Why was that?
Because they're all not white.
Yes, her ability to offer representation,
right?
Especially in books that were written in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
I only discovered it like in 2000, 2001.
Correct.
I was
but
like a teenager.
If you, as we keep saying on our earlier Hard Hits episode, stay woke. It's easy to say in 2018. But this was not a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. She's fantastic. She's influenced a lot of people. But what I most love about her,
it's an unabashed like defense of sci-fi, I think.
correct,
For me lah.
sci-fi and fantasy. She's always called out the the literary establishment for disregarding great works of genre fiction.
Yeah.
When she at the National Book Awards.
Oh my god, she's our patron saint.
Yeah, she's our patron saint.
Yeah.
At the National Book Awards in 2014, her now legendary speech, she basically thanked all the other genre fiction authors who have never been able to win this award. At their award, calling them out. She is fervently against realism because she feels that in this day and age, or in any day and age, realism might be the least effective way to deal with real world issues. She's
been proven right quite a few times.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, we live in the most ridiculous age right now. What kind of realism is that?
Yeah. Our realism is no longer real.
Yeah, she's even called out her good friend Margaret Atwood for not labeling her work as sci-fi. Because Margaret Atwood always fears that if she labeled her books as sci-fi or fantasy, they won't be taken seriously by the literary elites. And that's quite sad.
That is actually a legit fear by Margaret Atwood. I mean, if you think about when she wrote her books and all that, during that period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of Atwood, right, and her relationship with the Guin, I was just reading her essay in tribute when the Guin passed away. And she basically said, like, it's so sad because now more than ever we need Le Guin. Right? Because of the way that it's and the one thing, and I think one of the more memorable concepts that Le Guin that I read at Le Guin wrote is the idea of the Omelas, which is like this perfect city that exists only because there is a single child who has to be mistreated. Based upon that. And I mean, like, powerful ideas like that, are nowhere more important in this day and age with all the things that we're seeing. I mean, we've talked so many. I mean, we brought up this whole like Trumpian thing like 8 times now in this entire podcast. And there's no more time. So the literary world has lost a giant. Right, and I think the world as a whole has lost something great.
I mean, like, her works of literature, she's done the Earthsea trilogy is considered a masterpiece, and I think I would recommend is The Left Hand of Darkness, which is also considered a masterpiece. Most of her work kind of deals with politics, the natural environment, gender, religion, sexuality, ethnography in alternate universes. That's what sci-fi does. That's what Philip K. Dick did. What Ursula brought to the table was a female perspective, which Philip K. Dick didn't have. She was against the realists, but that's only because she was the realist. Love Ursula K. Le Guin. If you're not familiar with her work,
go and read some of it.
Left Hand of Darkness is a great place to start.
Yeah, for sure.
If you want something like Earthsea.
Earthsea, is that light, man?
It is quite light,
but it's
easy. It's easy.
Oh yeah. Okay. I get that.
Okay. Yes.
It doesn't hurt the brain too much.
Well.
Other
short stories are great too. Easy to get into.
Exactly. Or even her essays, on sci-fi.
Or if you want to just watch a Studio Ghibli adaptation of Ursula.
Okay.
The Tales of Ursula.
Oh, that was very good.
It's not her stories though. I think it's like they created their own stories.
But it was
basically expanding her universe.
Yeah,
got it. It's anime and it's Ursula, so I guess it's right up our wheelhouse. We should definitely catch it. We'll be back next month. And March 1st of every month, look out for us then. We'll be talking about stuff like Black Panther,
Shape of Water,
Annihilation, which is Alex Garland's new movie. Isa will be talking about Doug Gently's holistic detective agency. We'll see how that goes.
We'll be talking about Black Lightning.
Yes.
They're not done with it. They won't be done with it yet.
Although I do have to say Black Lightning is excellent.
Yeah, please catch that.
It's been good. It's been great so far.
We will go more in depth, but it cannot come more highly recommended.
It's a good time to jump on.
It is blacker than Luke Cage, and it's on the CW.
And that says a lot.
Which is weird.
Agreed.
Other things. There's a horror movie on a review as well called The Ritual on Netflix. It's about Norse legends terrorizing hikers. Hadi will talk about Star Trek Discovery, and then I'll probably fight him. And I will talk about the end of season 1 of The Tick.
Okay.
We'll probably
I'll join you in that. Actually,
we'll probably have more as we go on. Altered Carbon is also a big Netflix show that's coming up. So we'll catch you next week, guys. See ya. Wait, no, next month.
We'll catch you